morning. My name is Ashley. I'm the Executive Director for the New Mexico Center for Therapeutic Riding. Today we are going to be learning about how to groom a horse, and we will be using our therapy horse, Blessy. Blessy is a 24-year-old Icelandic horse that was imported from Iceland. Before we begin, I want to discuss the parts of the halter. Here at NMCTR, we only use halters that have a quick release strap. So all of our halters have a quick release strap, and we only use lead ropes that are cotton. We do not use nylon lead ropes. So a lot of people get a little bit confused when first looking at a halter. So again, at the top, this is our quick release strap. Here is our nose band. This is going to go around the nose. These pieces right along here are the cheek pieces. They will lie parallel to the cheekbones. And then if you turn the halter around, you see this Y. This Y is actually going to be, it's called the throat latch, and it will go underneath their throat. So these are just parts of the halter to help people when haltering a horse. Okay, so now that we've learned about the different parts of the halter, let's go ahead and go in and get Blessy. So we want to open up the gate. Anytime we're catching a horse, whether it's in its stall, a round pen, a turnout, we always want to make sure that we shut the gate behind us. So we're going to shut the gate behind us. Now before we go to approach the horse, I have everybody here at NMCTR give the horse a statement of affirmation. What that does is it kind of clears whatever energy you may have at the moment. So whether you spilled your coffee and you're a little upset, or you were running late, or you're just overly excited to work with one of our therapeutic riding horses, if you could just take a moment and look at them and give them a statement of affirmation. What that does is it helps kind of align your energy with their energy, and the horses will be a lot more willing to want to work with you when your energies are aligned. So I always like to tell them how beautiful they are, or thank you for allowing me to be here. Once I've done that, we're going to go ahead and approach Blessy. So good morning, Blessy. You look handsome today. Thank you for letting us work with you. So now I can go ahead and approach Blessy. Anytime you approach a horse, you want to make sure that you always approach them from a side. Horses have a blind spot directly in front. They also have a blind spot directly to the side. Also, when you're approaching a horse, it's also you need to have developed an emergency escape plan. What I mean by that is that horses are fight or flight animals, and at any moment they can react to anything. So we want to be able to have a plan to keep ourselves safe. So a lot of people ask me how I come up with emergency escape plan. The one thing you want to think about is how are you going to keep yourself the safest in an emergency situation. So if we look at Blessy here, if I approach him from this side, I have this whole entire round pen to be able to free myself in case of an emergency. Now if I approach Blessy on the other side, that's going to put myself in a dangerous situation. So if I pin myself between Blessy and this fence, which I'm not going to stay there for a long time because it's not safe, I've now put myself in a dangerous situation, because if at any point something were to scare Blessy, he's going to spook that way into me, and I might get stuck up against the fence. So when you're developing your emergency escape plan, again, remember to give yourself a ton of room to be able to move quickly in case of an emergency, because again, these horses are fight or flight animals, and as well trained as they are, always have an emergency escape plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach Blessy from the side, and when I approach him, I'm going to put the lead rope around his neck. Okay, so I'll come to the side here. I want to approach him at his shoulder. He's just checking me out. I'm going to put the lead rope over his neck, and now I'm ready to halter him. At any point, if he were to sniff me and turn his head and walk away, or if I were to try to put the lead rope over his neck and he were to try to walk away, that's him communicating to me that he's not ready. That's him communicating to me that he's not willing to work for the day. If that is the case, please contact one of the staff members that are around so that they can help you catch one of our horses, because it's extremely important here at NMCTR that we listen to these horses. So I put the lead rope over Blessie's neck. I don't know if anyone noticed, but he was licking and chewing. Those are all good signs that he's ready to work for the day. So we're going to now put his halter on. When we're putting the halter on, again, we want to make sure that our horses want to work for the day, that they want to be here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the halter underneath his face and allow him to make the choice. If he just kind of stands here and looks content and ready to go, I'm going to slip the halter over his face. Ideally, in the most perfect world, he's going to put his head in the halter himself. If we go to ask him to put the halter on and he turns his head away, again, that is him saying no, and we need to respect that. And again, if you have a horse that is not willing to put his halter on, please contact a staff member. Hello. You ready? So I don't think he's objecting, so I'm going to go ahead and put the halter on. You're going to slip the halter on so that we have the nose band over his nose. The quick relief strap is going to be behind his ears. And then we're going to put his halter on. A lot of people ask how loose or how tight, so let's discuss how to properly fit a halter on a horse. First off, we want to make sure that the nose band is pretty much in between his nostrils and his eyes. That's kind of the placement. If it's too low, it will be down here. If it's too high, it'll be up here. You also want to be able to fit about 2 fingers in this nose band, and that's how you know if it's too tight or too loose. Next, we want to check to make sure that his throat latch, and Blessie's very hairy, so it's a little hard to see, but his throat latch is naturally placed right underneath his cheek here, where the cheekbone, his jowls, meet his neck. So that looks like it's in a good spot. Again, we want to fit about, for the throat latch, 3 or 4 fingers in here. And again, we can fit those fingers there. We also want to make sure that his cheek pieces run parallel to his cheek. So here's his cheekbone, and these kind of run parallel. So there's a properly fitted halter on Blessie. Again, we're going to take Blessie over to the area and tie him up, but I want to discuss with you how to correctly hold the lead rope. So you never want the lead rope to be on the ground. You always want to make sure that the lead rope is looped in a butterfly fashion. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold the butterfly with your left hand, and then you're going to hold about 1 ruler length, 12 inches, with your right hand, okay? Anytime you walk any one of our horses, this is what it should look like. You want to keep your shoulder right next to their eye, their cheekbone, so that you're able to read their communication, and then you can walk with one of our horses. Once we've properly fitted the halter on the horse, we're going to go ahead and tie them, and I'm going to walk you through it now. NMCTR uses a special quick release knot in case of emergencies. And so what you're going to do, first you're going to make a loop. The loop is going to go under and over wherever you're tying them. Then the rope that's connected to the actual horse is going to go through your loop, and you'll make a new loop. Once you've made a new loop, the rope that is hanging down goes through, and you've now made a new loop. You're going to pull your new loop and the one that's connected to your horse apart, and that is how it will tighten. Ideally, you want about 2 feet from your knot to the horse so that we don't have it too tight, but we also don't have it too loose. In case of emergencies, you just pull your rope here, just like so, and it completely comes undone. Now that we have our horse tied with a quick release knot, we're just going to quickly discuss some safety rules before we begin grooming. First, never walk underneath a horse here. Anytime you need to go to the other side, always walk around the horse. When you're walking around the horse, again, there's a blind spot right behind them. So here at NMCTR, we ask that you, 1, touch the horse as you're going around so the horse knows that you're there, but also verbalize it. You could say behind you, you can say their name, whatever it is best. Also, it's the safest the closer you walk to them. A lot of people will walk like an arm's length, and that's actually not as safe as if you're walking here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around Blessie. I'm going to tap him with my left hand, and I'm going to say, behind you, Blessie. Behind you, Blessie. And by doing that, 1, Blessie could hear where I was, and you could see his ears listening to me, and that just made it so that I wouldn't startle him when I was behind him. We also want to make sure that we never walk directly underneath a horse. So whether you are a rider or a volunteer, those are just a couple safety rules that we have. If you're a volunteer, you might have to help the children that you work with not walk underneath the horse, because that looks pretty appealing sometimes. Here at NMCTR, to help those that do better with a schedule or visual, we have pictures that are on a magnet board to help those in our grooming sequence. So once you're done with number 1, the curry comb, you can take it off the board. And now you know that you're on to number 2. You also know that you have 3 brushes left to be finished with the grooming. Brush number 1 is the curry comb. There's actually different kinds of curry combs, and I'm just going to talk to you about the different kinds. First, we have our rubber curry comb. This curry comb is the most used curry comb at NMCTR. And what this does is this kind of breaks up any dirt. It also brings any loose hair to the surface. Next, we have the massaging curry comb. This curry comb has the same functioning, but it also will massage the horse's muscles as you're grooming them. The last curry comb is the metal curry comb. This is best used for if you need to break up caked on mud or horses that are really shedding after the winter season. Okay, to use this brush, you're going to go in a circular motion all over their body, again bringing up any loose hair, breaking up any dirt. A lot of people always ask about like how hard to do this or how much pressure. When you are brushing a horse, you always want to make sure you pay attention to how they communicate. A lot of times they communicate with their face, they communicate with their legs, like stomping their legs, or also swishing their tail. So you just want to make sure that you're paying attention. If I'm doing this brush too hard, Blessy might let me know by putting his ears back. That's a sign of negative emotions like anger or frustration. He might also kind of flare up his nostrils, or you can see his eyes maybe get a little bit bigger. If the horse is flinching away from you, you're obviously doing it too hard. So I like to suggest to people to use enough pressure that you're actually breaking up the dirt and using the tool correctly, but not where you're making it uncomfortable for the horse. So we're going to go ahead and begin. We're going to use this brush all over his body except for his face and his legs, and try to bring up all of his loose hair that he's shedding out. Blessy is a good example of a horse that you'd actually probably want to use the metal curry comb because he has so much hair. But for learning purposes, we're going to use the rubber curry comb. So we're just going to go in circular motion. Every now and then you're going to have to stop and remove the hair from the brush and then begin again. If you're planning on going to a dinner party after this, I probably wouldn't suggest it because you're going to go home wearing a lot of Blessy's hair. Let's face it. Behind you, Blessy. Behind you. Next up, we have brush number 2. Brush number 2 is known as the hard brush. It's also known as a dandy brush. This brush has stiff bristles, and it is used to remove all of that dirt and dust that you brought to the surface with the number 1 curry comb. When using this brush, again, you use the same amount of pressure based off the horse's liking. So again, make sure that you are aware of what the horse is communicating. In my opinion right now, Blessy's ears are pretty lackadaisical. He has a really soft eye, slightly falling asleep. I'm pretty sure he's very content with our grooming session. When using brush number 2, the hard brush, you're going to use it all over his body except for his face and his legs. And you're going to go in a flicking motion in the same direction that his hair goes. So we'll go ahead and pick up his big mane. And again, our goal is to try to remove all of the dust and dirt and hair that we brought to the surface. Just like brush number 1, you're going to want to have to stop and clean your brush before you continue. Again, make sure you're paying attention to the direction of his hair. Behind you, Blessy. Good boy. Occasionally I'll look up and check his facial expressions to make sure that he's enjoying this. Now, a lot of people will ask what he's doing here. He's actually just resting his weight, kind of like we do as people. Again, that's another sign that he's content, he's relaxed, he's enjoying this experience. We have brush number 3. Brush number 3 is the soft brush. So if you feel the bristles, they're a lot softer than the hard brush. I like to consider this brush kind of like our finishing brush or our polishing brush. It has kind of the same function as brush number 2. However, this brush can bring a little bit of shine to their coat. You're going to use it the same way as brush number 2, but you can use this brush on their face and legs. Here at NMCTR, we prefer that only staff brushes their face. So when you're grooming one of our horses, please use this brush on their body and their legs, not on their face. Again, it's that same flicking motion all over their body. However, this one you can use on their legs. When you're brushing their legs, you can squat down or you can bend down, but never put your knees down like so. Again, you need to always have an emergency escape plan. So being able to be on both feet at all times is the safest position for you. So I just like to bend down and I'll brush the outside and the inside of his legs and then continue on. When you're brushing the back legs, again, please never forget that there's a blind spot directly behind the horse. Always stay on the side. Never groom a horse from behind. Always use your tools on the side. So I'm going to stay on the side of him while grooming his back leg. Okay, behind you, Blessy. To brush number 4. Brush number 4 is the hoof pick. So before we begin, let's talk about why we use the hoof pick. The hoof pick is used to clean out the horse's hoof. All 4 hooves, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. We use this tool to remove any dirt, mud, rocks. A lot of times horses will get rocks within their hoof, but to also check their shoes. It also helps maintain having a healthy hoof. So we can check for things such as thrush, or any irregularities that may be going on within their hoof. So what you're going to want to do when picking a horse's hoof is you always want to make sure that your toes are pointed towards their tush, and you want to make yourself be right next to their shoulder. What I suggest to people is you're going to run your arm that is closest to the horse down their leg. When you get to the bottom around their fetlock area, which I will show you, you could use a little squeeze. If the horse does not pick up their hoof, then you want to kind of push your shoulder into his shoulder, which then rocks his weight onto the opposite foot and will make it easier for him to lift up your foot. A lot of people don't know what to do with their hands. A good way to describe it is I like to tell people to walk your hands down his leg like a ladder until you're holding his hoof. You always want to actually hold the hoof itself, never the leg when picking the hoof. So we're going to rub our hand down Blessie's leg. My toes are pointing towards his tush. You want to make sure that his weight is on all 4 feet, which he's resting right now. So there we go, encouraging him to stand up on all 4. I'm going to run this hand down his leg. Oh, and he picked it up for me really well. They don't always do that, but if you needed to push your shoulder into his shoulder, it would kind of look something like this. Okay, once he picked up his leg, what you're going to want to do again, like I said, is walk your hand down his leg like a ladder, and you're going to hold his hoof. Now, some people will like to hold it with their left hand. Some people will want to hold it with their right hand. It depends on if you're left-handed or right-handed. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use the tool with my right hand, and I'm going to hold his leg with my left hand. When you're picking the hoof, a couple things to make certain that you do is that never make sure that once you got the hoof, you kind of do a stance like so. If you do a stance like so, and he decides to slam his foot down, he's going to step on your foot. So always make sure your feet are together. They're pointed towards his tush, and they're away from where his foot would potentially be. With the hoof pick, you're going to pick going downwards. You never want to pick going upwards. You could stab yourself, you could stab the horse, so always pick going downwards. This little area right here is the horse's frog, and right in here is the groove, and I want to clean all that out. Okay, so I'm going to kind of get in there. Sometimes it's pretty caked in there, and you actually have to get pretty deep in there. You really want to make sure that you get all of this dirt and mud out of his hoof so that we can make sure that we get all debris, any rocks, but also check for things like thrush. Now, once you start seeing that there's that like white line, if you will, that's how you know you've gone deep enough. Okay, so it looks like majority of this mud, caked in mud, is out of his hoof. His shoe looks good. I'm going to give it a little finishing brush here, and Blessie's foot looks great. Now, when we put his foot down, we want to make sure that we do it gently. We don't want to just let go, because sometimes they're actually resting on us. So I'm going to gently put his foot down. My feet were out of the way, and I'm going to step away. Now, when we're doing the back feet are a little bit harder, and only because the best way I can explain it to you is that here is the horse's knee in the front leg. Oh, good boy. That is the horse's knee. In the back leg, here is the horse's knee. So the action of the knee from the front to the back is a lot different, and so the back leg, when we pick up the back leg, it's a lot more awkward. So what we're going to do is the same exact thing. You're going to run your hand down his leg. You're going to position your feet out of the way, and we're going to ask him to pick up his back foot. Again, once he does, I'm going to use my hands like a ladder and kind of walk my hands down until I'm holding his hoof. A lot of times they pick their foot up really, really high. Be patient and give them time to relax, like Blessie just did. A lot of people ask if you can kind of do this and rest the hoof on the knee. We actually don't encourage that, only because if at any point the horse tries to pull their leg away and kind of does one of these actions, they could actually accidentally kick your kneecap. So again, keep your feet together away from the horse. You can see Blessie does not have shoes on his back feet, so it's actually a little bit easier. We're just going to clean out these grooves. Give a little brush, and Blessie's finished. And again, we're going to gently let him put his foot down and move to the side. Additional grooming tools that we don't have in the horse's grooming bag. We have a mane comb, which is used to brush out their mane. We also have a tail brush, which is used to brush out their tail. We ask that if you'd like to use either one of these grooming tools that you do ask for staff's permission first, only because we only like to use these tools after we've washed their mane and tail. We want them to be conditioned and make it easier for us to brush. If we don't condition their mane and tails, we actually end up ripping out a lot of their mane and tail, and it's very uncomfortable for the horse. So please ask for permission before you use these. Thank you all so much for watching my grooming video. Hope you learned something today. I would probably say that if we wanted to evaluate how we groomed Blessy, we'd probably want to do brushes 1, 2, and 3 at least 3 or 4 more times, because as you can see, he's actually shedding quite a lot. We'd also probably want to use the metal curry comb instead of the rubber curry comb. But it's such a beautiful day. Once we're done here, I'm actually going to brush him several more times. So thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you have a great week.